Hey guys, this is Leeza, and today I wanted to talk about rejection. So let me share a little rejection story of my own. When I was in college in New York, I had this crush on a guy who was super cute, smart, kind, all of the good things, and he seemed pretty interested in me. So we went on a couple of dates, and he always seemed really enthusiastic when he was texting or, when we were communicating on email, on the phone. But face to face, it was weird. He was always a little reserved, or it just seemed like he was hesitant or holding back. And he'd initiate these dates, but then when we were actually sitting together at the restaurant, it would feel like something was amiss, or that he was maybe not sure if he wanted to be there. I don't know. I couldn't read the situation. Some of this is obviously retrospective, but at the time I just thought maybe he's shy, or maybe he's a bit of an introvert. I really wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt since I had such a big crush on him. And so by the third date, I reached out my hand to hold his hand, and before I'd even barely touched his hand, he moved away. And so suddenly it just seemed like he really didn't want to be there, and that he clearly wasn't that into me. And even though it wasn't melodramatic and nothing so drastic happened, it just hurt. Rejection always cuts close to the bone. Why was he going on all these dates with me if he wasn't actually into me? Why wasn't he into me? I mean, these are the kind of questions that play in your head when even the slightest rejection or incident that feels like rejection occurs, right? Our default setting is to wonder, why aren't we good enough? What did we do wrong? And make it all about us. And our ego is so fragile. It's so easy to just feel like you're completely inadequate and to sort of crumble under your own self-doubt at the slightest hint of rejection. We're all terrible at dealing with rejection, aren't we? And I was no exception. This was by all means quite a quiet and gentle rejection. It was just an awkward hand-holding that never really happened, but it was enough to get me to cry when I got to my dorm room, and I feel so silly now. But I'm just telling you honestly, because the whole incident actually taught me quite a bit about rejection. So after that failed date, we didn't talk for a while. He never called or texted me for several weeks, so I didn't either. I didn't think I'd ever hear from him again, to be honest. But about a month or so after that date, he called me and sort of sheepishly asked if we could have a coffee, and he said he wanted to tell me something. So we met for a coffee outside the library, and he explained that he'd actually just broken up with his ex-girlfriend who he'd been with for 5 years at the time that he'd sort of initiated the romantic texts or whatever with me, and that even though he hadn't completely gotten over his previous relationship, it had felt good to just get attention and affection from someone. So he'd sort of initiated those dates and found himself flirting with me, when in fact he hadn't really healed from the breakup and wasn't really in a position to enter into something new. And so he kind of explained that he felt like an idiot for messing everything up like that and being so confused himself and putting me in that situation. But he wasn't trying to reinitiate anything. He was genuinely just offering an explanation and an apology. He also added, though, that his ex-girlfriend was Indian too, and that the reason he was drawn to me in the first place was because I resembled her. Anyway, maybe it was too much information, but I appreciate his honesty, and I appreciate that he took the time to just explain what was going on, because most of us don't do that, right? Most of us are pretty callous with the way that we reject people. And when we're being rejected, we're so quick to make it all about ourselves. I was just glad that he had that conversation with me, even though maybe I was a bit weirded out by his Indian fetish. And he kind of did seem like an idiot at the time. It wasn't the most pleasant conversation. But zooming out, I really, really appreciate that he was willing to put himself in that vulnerable place and had the courage to just explain what went on. Because it reminded me that so often rejection isn't about us at all. Everybody is bringing baggage with them, right? The baggage of their own upbringing, their own experiences, their own past relationships. And so often when something doesn't work out, it isn't because you're not good enough or because you did something. Sometimes it's because they're not sure what they want, or they're not even ready for anything, or it might even just be because they bring certain expectations or conditioning or whatever it is with them. I mean, this dude liked Indian women or whatever. That was part of the reason he liked me too. The second thing I think that is really worth remembering about rejection is that no one owes it to you to like you back. Egos are so fragile, and it's so easy to convert your own own ego bruise into a reason to harm someone else. Rejection has been the reason for many people to do some really horrendous things. I mean, from sending nasty messages to creating rumors on the lower end of the spectrum to acid attacks and death threats and, I mean, even self-harm or suicide. And we really have to think about whether the simple fact of someone not reciprocating your attention or affection is worth that amount of insane violence, drama, negativity. I mean, it is not such a big deal at all, right? It's actually quite a natural part of life. It's highly likely that at some point in your life you will be rejected, and at some point in your life you will reject someone. It's just a natural part of being human and engaging with other humans. And I feel like the quicker we destigmatize rejection and the quicker we detach our sense of self-worth to how attractive we are to random people and stop punishing ourselves if someone says no. And also, more importantly, respect consent. No means no. If someone says no, you've got to respect that and leave them alone. I feel like all of that is sort of stuff we don't talk about enough, and therefore also stuff we kind of respond to with our caveman impulses sometimes. For me, just this incident made me think about in quite a sort of in-depth way for the first time when I was, 18 or 19 years old, just about the fact that I wouldn't let rejection ever become this thing that got the better of me. I never wanted to be that melodramatic person who harms someone because they reject me, and I also didn't want to be the sort of person who crumbles up in a ball of self-doubt because someone has rejected me. That's really what it did for me, that whole story. So I'm grateful to this dude for for taking me to this realization, even though it was a kind of awkward experience at the time. It was probably my first brush with rejection. I'm glad it was a gentle brush with rejection and that he had the courage to talk about it. I think we need to explain ourselves a bit more and be gentler with each other's feelings as well. If something isn't working out for whatever reason, instead of ghosting, if you can explain yourself and why it's not working for you, I think that does provide people with closure, and it just shows that you know, respect them and do care about their feelings. So I think that's also something I learned from this, because I myself, I think, had a hard time previously talking about difficult emotions or letting someone know something that I thought they wouldn't be happy to hear. And that incident also clarified to me that in fact, sometimes it's good for us to hear things, even if they might not be what we want to hear. It's good for us to hear the truth. So yeah, that was my little rejection story. I think we all need to get better at dealing with rejection. And I think the first step is talking about it. There's no shame in being rejected. Share your rejection stories if you like. You can send them to me in DMs, leave them in the comments, talk about them, tell me about how you've gotten better at dealing with rejection. And I hope you liked this video. Please give it a big thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, leave a comment. I'll see you next time. Bye.